Baldy, it's Ross. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Ross, Happy New Year, man. Good to join you. Thanks a lot.
Hey, was there ever anybody, teammate or opponent that you were like legitimately a little bit scared of? Like you really would not have wanted to mess with that dude?
Well, the forklift in Washington, Jumpy Gathers, was a guy that could flat out embarrass you. The forklift, Ross, as you remember, was where he literally would pick up the guard or center and just drop him in the lap of the quarterback. And once you got picked up, it was like it was like a cartoon. I mean, you were pretty much helpless. And you really you wanted to win the game, but you didn't want to be embarrassed by Jumpy Gathers. That was worse, because being ruined by your teammates in the film room is worse than any collective loss by a team.
I can see that for sure. I want to get to something you tweeted about Trevor Lawrence during the Clemson Notre Dame game a little bit later. But first, I've seen so many of your Baldy's breakdowns on the rookies, Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley in particular. I'm just curious, offensive rookie of the year, do you have a guy you'd lean to?
Well, I mean, it's a good competition this year, Ross. It's a great rookie class. I mean, there was a time when rookies were basically redshirted in the NFL, but not anymore. Not with the talent that they have and how seasoned they are coming in. But as much as I love Baker, and I've loved him, and I never understood why Cleveland wouldn't let him compete for the job from the very beginning, and why he had to sit out for 2.5 games before he took over. But I still think Saquon was a guy. I just did something for the NFL, and I had to put together a highlight package of Saquon. I ran out of time. There's just too many of them. I mean, there's 8 plays over 50 yards. There's the 15 touchdowns. There's the catches. There's 1-yard runs that look like highlight reel type runs. It's going to be hard for me to take anybody over Saquon right now. Led the league in yards from scrimmage with over 2,000 yards. I never saw him either nicked up or tired in any game. The guy was just a complete machine, start to finish, all the way to the final game against the Cowboys, Ross.
You know what's weird to me about him, Baldy, and there's other great running backs, Todd Gurley, Zeke Elliott, etc. I don't think there's another guy, though, that makes NFL defenders look as bad as he does at times. Like sometimes when guys are trying to tackle him, he makes them look bad, or when he bounces outside, even guys that have an angle on him, Baldy, I mean, he legitimately, I think it's fair to say at times, makes NFL starting defensive players look bad or at least pedestrian. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it started week 1 in the rain against Jacksonville. I mean, watch Telvin Smith and Miles Jack and, the whole group of Barry Church. Watch them all just grab nothing but air, all game long. And it went like that all season. And they constantly took the wrong angles. And then he just has that ability just to – his balance, his ability to jump and make guys miss and land on his feet, almost like a ballerina at times. It's just an incredible blend of all of the great attributes you could possibly want, the ability to make people miss, the balance that he has, and then the strength and the burst from any position is just – it's really – unlike anything I've seen in this league in a long, long time. And I blocked for Dorsett and Eric Dickerson and Thurman Thomas and some Hall of Fame backs, but I don't remember any of those guys being able to do the complete things that Saquon can do.
What about MVP, Baldy? Can you still make an argument for Breeze, or is it just Mahomes?
You can make an argument, but you can't make the argument from this standpoint, Ross. You can't give it to him as a Lifetime Achievement Award just because he's never won it before. You can't give it to him on that merit. Why he hasn't won one before with all the accomplishments and everything, I don't know. But this year, start to finish, Patrick Mahomes was the best player in this league. And he didn't take a Sunday off or a Thursday night or a Monday. He didn't take any day off. He was phenomenal every single week. And he's only the third guy to throw for 50 touchdowns in a season. But even more than that was the percentage of passes that were touchdowns. I mean, 9% of his passes were touchdowns. Nobody in this history of the league has ever come close to that number before.
Yeah, and you know what, too? I almost feel like, Baldy, the Saints' defense playing so much better in the second half of the year, that almost hurts Breeze in that it makes it like what he did offensively was less valuable. If we're talking most valuable player, because That wasn't really the case with the Chiefs. They needed every throw Mahomes made, whereas the Saints defense really started to play pretty well. So Breeze wasn't quite as valuable in those games, although we all know how great Breeze is. I think that's a pretty good point. I want to get into these playoff games with you as well. I'm talking with Brian Baldinger, NFL Network, does terrific stuff on Twitter. You got to check it out. Baldy's Breakdowns. He's fantastic. So one of the poll questions today, Baldy, has been the wild card team that you think has the best chance to make a run to the Super Bowl, and also the worst, like the least likely scenario of these teams this weekend. So give me a best and a worst for the wild card teams, the 8 teams, what you see them possibly being able to accomplish.
Well, I mean, the Colts went down to Houston, late in the year, and they stopped a 9-game win streak of the Texans. And when you go back and watch the game, I'm sure you've watched it, Ross. I mean, they got some explosive plays out of the passing game. Andrew Luck was phenomenal. They handled the pass rush of J.J. Watt and Jadeveon just fine. But they had the big plays to T.Y. Hilton and to Pascal, to Eric Ebron, and really the Texans didn't have much answer for it. And then defensively, I mean, they've been shutting teams down, and you have to really do your homework to look at the Colts defense and make sure that you know who Marcus Hunt is and Jabal Sheard and obviously Darius Leonard, the group, but they're playing very, very good defense right now. They shut the Cowboys out late in the year. And so that'd be a team on the – can they go down and do it again to the Texans? I mean, they just did it. So I think they have a chance to go do it again.
Always fun to talk with Brian Baldinger, a guy I've looked up to for a long time in this business because of the great work he does and the preparation he puts in. I want to get to a tweet you had, 2 tweets before I let you go, Baldy. One, I think you said recently that the Eagles might be better than they were last year. Is that were you kidding, or do you really believe that?
No, I wasn't kidding. I mean, if you looked at the Eagles in Week 16 and 17 last year and losses on Christmas night to the Raiders and then the loss to the Cowboys in Week 17, I mean, Nick Foles had taken over, and he didn't look very good. And they kind of got hot through the playoffs. I mean, they scored, 13 points against the Falcons in the first home playoff game, and then they just rolled on the Vikings and then put up all those yards and points against the Patriots. But they look better. I mean, I think Golden Tate is a better option right now at wide receiver. I think the offensive line got healthy at the right time. Nick Foles is playing as good a football as he did in his playoff run last year right now. And I think defensively they finally found corners that they believe in. I think when you look at, what they have out there right now, it's better than anything they had all year long. And I think the defensive front is better than it was a year ago. I think Michael Bennett coming in. I think Haloti Ngata coming in right now. I think they're better up front as a defensive line.
You know what? Especially as opposed to exactly this time a year ago, I think you make a pretty good point. I hadn't even thought of it that way. And then the other tweet, and you can always follow Baldy at Baldy NFL. That's how you get at him, at Baldy NFL. It was during the Clemson Notre Dame game. And I don't have the exact tweet in front of me, but you said something like you wondered, I think, if perhaps Trevor Lawrence, the Clemson quarterback, might even be the number 1 pick in the draft if he were allowed to come out in 2019.
Well, I mean, I'm just watching him play, and I've seen him play a little bit throughout the year, Ross, to calling college football on Saturdays at Fox. But, he's 19 years old. Obviously, he's too young to come out. He's not eligible. But when you watch him and you look at what the teams are looking for, I mean, if Mitch Trubisky can be the number 2 pick in the draft and traded up to the number 2 pick to become a starter and now in his second year leading a team into the playoffs, I mean, obviously there's a lot of parts in Chicago. But that's what teams are looking for. They're looking for that guy. Now, he's only started, 8 or 9 games or whatever it is right now, but it looks like a good piece of clay. I mean, the size, the arm strength, the poise, all of that stuff. And he, the quarterback that was there before Kelly Bryant, I mean, he was a good player too, but he was better. And I just think as much as teams are looking for that guy, and there's a bunch of teams looking for quarterbacks right now, whether it's the Giants or what the Patriots are going to do long term, or just go through the list of teams in this league, you go, boy, could you take a 19-year-old right now, number 1, and develop him and give him, build him a really good cast around him, and could he be that guy that teams are looking for right now?
Do you think, Baldy, that it's fair that he should have to wait to 2021, or do you think maybe this is something that we should look at? Because watching him play that well in 2018, it seems pretty crazy that he can't enter the NFL till 2021.
Well, I mean, you're going to see guys taking out insurance policies on injuries right now at that age in college. I mean, Leonard Fournette, and Todd Gurley, these guys coming out of the SEC at those positions, they look like they were ready to play right away after a year. And so, before anything happens to them, you almost think, gosh, is it just like the NBA? Can they be one and done physically? That gifted right now this early, and just banking on the potential. I mean, the year that Edgerrin James came out, everybody said that Ricky Williams was the best running back, except the Colts thought that Edgerrin James only had 1 year of tread off the tire at the University of Miami. He became a better player and is probably a Hall of Fame player, yet only really played 1 year at Miami. And so it's been out there for a long, long time that there are certain players that are just advanced in their development physically and gifted. And it's going to come to a point where it's going to become a fight again to get these kids to stay in school and to make them stay for, the 3 years into their tenure.
Brian, always appreciate the time. Check him out on Twitter at Baldy NFL. He's a terrific analyst for Compass, Fox, NFL Network. And like I said, if you're not checking out his videos on Twitter, you're doing it wrong. Baldy, thanks so much as always.
Happy New Year, Ross. Thanks a lot, buddy. I'll talk to you down the road.
All right, there he is, Brian Baldinger.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.